All right, Jacob, in 2002, the famous tuck rule came into play, an AFC divisional playoff game with the Patriots versus the Raiders, then the Patriots ultimately winning about that. Tuck rule's now gone after many years of it, but what do you think about that?
One could say that perhaps Charles Woodson would have gone down as the GOAT had the tuck rule never been in place. Who knows?
Yeah, you're right about that. It favored my Patriots, so I won't complain about it. But welcome everybody to Low and Bros Sports Podcast, where today all we will be talking about is football. We got a couple of news things and throughout the college football world, and then us responding to our reactions from the wild card and our predictions for the divisional round and whatnot. But today we start off in college football, where it was announced that Stetson Bennet is going to stay another year at Georgia, which led to JT Daniels entering the transfer portal. After JT Daniels got injured throughout in the season of Georgia, Bennett ended up taking over and leading the Georgia Bulldogs to their first college football championship since the 80s. It just looks like another situation of when Justin Fields, I know it's not JT Daniels isn't Justin Fields, but another situation that this happens where the backup comes in, takes the position, leads them, and like you can't. I mean, you're not going to bench him next year. I mean, Stetson Bennett clearly led them. I shouldn't say maybe he led them. More or less, the defense led them to a national championship. But what's your opinion on this, Jacob, about Stetson Bennett staying and JT Daniels' decision to transfer?
I didn't realize Stetson Bennett could come back, but that makes sense since everyone got a COVID year last year. So I didn't expect this at all. Just because I didn't know, that he could come back in the first place. As far as JT Daniels leaving, seems like the call to me. I mean, I wouldn't want to sit around and see what happens when I knew I'm probably going to ride the pine. I mean, you couldn't possibly think that Stetson Bennett is going to get put on the bench after leading his team to a national title. I mean, I know that that's not the way coaches think, but I mean, you'd think Kirby Smart would immediately get the pitchforks and torches if he were to put Stetson Bennett on the bench. So I don't blame JT Daniels. I think that's probably a good call on his part to, pick up and go somewhere else.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those situations. Like I say, you're not going to sit around. And I mean, he did win the starting position this year before he got injured, and but it's hard to bench the person who won. It's just like Ohio State the year they won it on their third string quarterback. He had Cordell Jones coming back the season after, all three quarterbacks, Braxton Miller, JT Barrett, and then Cordell Jones all there. They all end up staying, but I mean, they didn't end up starting Braxton Miller or JT Barrett. They came out with the hot hand who won the national championship game. And I feel like you don't want to say that's what would have happened, but I think you'd like to think that would have happened. That JT Daniels would have been on the bench watching, and I mean I don't blame him for leaving. I don't. I don't know how I've from what I've seen, his potential destinations are other SEC schools like LSU, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and then I just the article I've been kind of reading. It said that other top spots too were Notre Dame, Penn State. And I can't, as an opinion, I couldn't say which one I think is the best option for him. I don't know where he wants to go. I don't know which place would be the best fit for him. But, I mean, Oklahoma's been taking transfer quarterbacks for years to come now. I know that Lincoln Riley's gone now, but so maybe they'll transfer to USC, but I don't know. It's just I don't blame him for wanting to leave.
No, for sure. I'm still a firm believer that Cordell Jones should have immediately declared for the draft after the national title game and not went back to Ohio State.
Yeah, I think his draft stock definitely would have been a lot higher at the time. But yeah, like I said, I mean, what I would do the same thing if I was him. I mean, you're not gonna stay and hope. I mean, he's probably confident in his abilities, but he probably is a smart enough kid, and clearly is to think that they're gonna go with the hot hand. the guy who won him a national championship.
Yeah, I mean, and no doubt there's going to be some old dude on Twitter who goes, "Whatever happened to good old fashioned compete for your spot?" You know, a bunch of baloney. It's like, I mean, if Joe Burrow and Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray and Justin Fields all stuck around to compete for their spot, we wouldn't know who they were. We wouldn't know who they are.
No, yeah, exactly. Like I said, we've talked about the transfer portal. I don't necessarily enjoy it, but this is his second time transferring. But like, I mean, he's looking forward to probably thinking that he still has an NFL career ahead of him, and why spend his last year sitting on the bench behind someone, and when he can go to a different team, earn the starting spot and up his draft stock. I mean, I don't know how much of a draft stock he has already, but I mean, it's a good move for him, and I guess I'd love him to go into the SEC somewhere else. Go play for LSU, and then just come back and beat him the next season. Like, I would just love to see that. Him as his starting quarterback going to face his old team, Georgia, and beating them.
And you'd love to call that a revenge game, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, how do you call that a revenge game, I mean, Georgia's just riding the guy who, took him to the biggest game that they've played in 40 years and won that game.
Yeah, and I know it was Georgia's defense that led them most of the time, you want to say, to the national championship. But like I said, if Bennett had like a subpar, but the thing is, if he did have a subpar year and wasn't very good, JT Daniels was back he could have played the last couple of games or even in the regular season. So, I mean, but clearly, if Bennett was playing subpar, just barely keeping them along, maybe he stays, but I mean, why would you? I mean, he'd be an idiot to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense to me. I mean, like I'm not a huge fan of the transfer portal as essentially turning college sports into free agency. But like I said, at the same time, it's good for guys like JT Daniels and Justin Fields and Joe Burrow, who can get out of a situation where they don't see any playing time in the near future. But hey, maybe I can play somewhere else and show what I'm made of.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, also, too, one of their wide receivers, Burton from Georgia, ended up transferring out of Georgia. I don't know if that was connected because he wanted JT Daniels to be quarterback. I have no idea. But I'm actually looking at the transfer portal right now on my computer right now, looking at some of the names here. Michigan's kicker. I don't know if it's the kicker, but
is it Jake Moody?
No,
because Jake Moody. Yeah, because Jake Moody, who won the Groza for best kicker, he's coming back for a fifth year next year. So
we love them 50 years. But yeah, no, it's just interesting to this whole transfer portal. I don't necessarily agree with how it's run. Like I honestly thought that if you transferred twice, that the second time you transfer, you have to sit out more, but another year or something like that. But apparently that's not. I don't know the exact rules of the transfer portal, though.
Yeah, I don't know if. I mean, that's definitely not a rule that I know of. I mean, it probably wouldn't be a terrible rule. But at the same time, I mean, maybe JT Daniels transfers somewhere and he goes off, has a Heisman season, and we say, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, too, is like this whole transfer thing is JT Downs, if he does have some NIL endorsements, like, clearly sitting on the bench behind someone isn't going to play a good part in him getting paid for that. He probably won't be getting paid as much for that.
Well, I mean, and that NIL stuff is becoming a huge deal with recruiting and the transfer portal because these guys, I mean, because these schools can essentially pay them with indirectly. I mean, because they can these schools can recruit major businesses and donors to to give these kids some money. So I mean like you see a school's ability to generate NIL for their top players is going to become a huge thing for recruiting, because why would you go play at I'm just throwing random names out there, like why would you go play at USC when Texas is going to be able to give you a $2 million NII deal, and the best you can come up with it going to USC is $500,000. Like why? especially especially like if you need the money. I mean, like if you're coming out of high school and your parents weren't millionaires, it's like if you can make a couple $1,000,000 first year of college, you're not going to turn it down.
Yeah, no, and I mean that's what you saw when you were is like I mean he just left his school and went to go play for Ohio State to get his NIL deals, and then he decommitted from Texas to go to Ohio State, and then transferred back to Texas after all that was, said and done. But this whole, NIL deals and stuff like that, you have all these players, like I said, that signed to Jackson State.
Because of prime time.
Well, prime time and all the NIL deals that they get. I mean, the number two player in the recruiting class is a cornerback, and he committed to Jackson State, and prime time's got connections with Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report gave him like $1 million NIL deal. This kid, and then there was another player that committed from to Jackson State who was like in the top 100. Actually, I think he was like pretty high up on the list. Actually, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a huge deal, to these kids. Because the difference between $1 million and $100,000 is substantial.
Yeah.
Maybe this NIL stuff might keep a couple guys in the playing college for an extra year. I mean, if they know that they're going to get $1 to $2 million and they don't quite like their draft stock, I mean, let's say you're a quarterback, you're a junior quarterback, and you're projected to go in like the second, third round, and you think, gee, I really want to get out of college for my payday, but it'd be nice if I could play another year to help boost my draft stock a little bit, right? I mean, but now, what if you're going to get, even if you're getting $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 for an NIL deal, there's not quite as much pressure to jump to the next level just for the cash. Yeah,
I don't know. It's just So they had the number 62 guy, Kevin Coleman, wide receiver, is the 7th rated wide receiver in the nation, commit to. Like I feel like if it wasn't for NIL deals, these guys would not be committing to Jackson State. There's no way. There's no way that. I mean, it may be just because Coach Prime's are like, I want to play for him, but like. There's no way that they get that commitment without those NIL deals, in my opinion.
I can't speak for how good of a coach that he is, in terms of X's and O's. But I mean, you got to think he's going to win games on all the talent he can bring in just because of who he is.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want to play for him?
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree with you there, but. Well, I think that's about all we need to talk about. I feel like we hit that topic quite a bit, honestly, about transfer portals and all that stuff. But moving forward, we have the NFL, our playoff review from this weekend, our reactions to the Wildcard Weekend, all the games that happened, Bengals beating the Raiders, Bills destroying the Patriots, the Bucks kind of putting a beat down the Eagles, 49ers beating the Cowboys, Rams, Cardinals, Chiefs beating the Steelers. But out of all these games, Jacob, is there anything you were surprised about from these games that happened, or anything a team won that you didn't think was going to win? I mean, you could just take it away however you want to go run with it.
I mean, I think my biggest surprise here is how easily the Bills took care of the Patriots. I mean, I said on this podcast about a month and a half ago that I thought at the time the Patriots might have been the best team in the AFC. I mean, and they definitely cooled off towards the back end of the year, but I thought they were better, especially their defense. The Bills, I saw the stat, the Bills are the first team in playoff history to score a touchdown on every drive, except for when they took that knee at the end. No punts, no turnovers. They just took a knee at the end. 6 for 6, which is insane. And the Patriots have a really good defense. So, I mean, the fact that they just dismantled them like that, I mean, I think that shows they're hot, and I mean, I think the Chiefs are in a lot of trouble next week.
Yeah, well, I was surprised about the Patriots-Bills one. And I said about last week, too, I was like, I feel like when Bill Belichick has time to prepare, and this is the third time he's playing him this season, it's like I feel like Bill Belichick will have a good game plan, and I don't feel just game plan wasn't executed or what happened, but that was just crazy to me. And I was wrong again about the Cowboys and 49ers. I think every team this last week won that was supposed to, like I said, minus the Cowboys. And I know there was some controversy of some refs and all whatever at the end of the game, and I don't care, refs, no refs. You lost by 6 to the 49ers, a game that I think that they had. 49ers are better than I thought. I mean, I never said that they were bad, but I don't know. I was kind of surprised about how much the Rams just controlled the game against the Cardinals too. Like, I thought that was going to be a lot closer game. And the Rams dominated all game.
I kind of did too, but I mean, I kind of think the Cardinals had a bit of Steelers syndrome this year. I mean, I think the front half of their season, they had a really weak schedule. They benefited from, playing some subpar competition, and, they kind of slowed down towards the end. They had dealing some injuries, and so, I mean, they started, 7-0, they managed to lose their division. I mean, you can't have that happen.
Yeah. It's kind of sad. Like I said, I said exactly the Steelers last year when they started 11-0 last year.
Yeah.
And then they ended up losing granted, they still won their division, but then lost the first round to the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, it feels eerily similar. I think the Cardinals this year are probably better than the Steelers were last year, maybe.
Well, like I said too, the Rams are a good team. They played a very good team to start off in the playoff, but I don't know if I said on this show, but I don't know if we started yet, but I think I may have just talked to you on the phone about this before too. It's like the Cardinals are good. I just don't think I didn't think it was ever their year this year. I think that they're a little too young. They haven't been in this position for a while, ever since probably back when Larry Fitzgerald was still playing, when they made the Super Bowl and stuff like that. I just think they have another year or two, and I think even next year they could come around and be an even better team. But I just never thought this year was going to be their year ever. I mean, like I said, though, what you said last week, though, they would have got hot for 3 games. They were hot for 3 games and win it. I mean, that's all the playoffs is, who's the hottest team. And honestly, right now, too, I can't say much about the 49ers because, I mean, they seem like a hot team, too. So, but I don't know, moving forward, about our divisional round games this upcoming weekend. We got Bengals versus the Titans with Derrick Henry coming back to the field. The Bengals after them. I mean, the Bengals have been one of those teams, hot, not hot. We got 49ers versus the Packers, Bills, Chiefs, and Rams, Buccaneers. I guess give me maybe some of the game. I want you to hear who you think's going to win all these games, and then give me your best matchup or game you're excited to watch from this.
I mean, I'll just kind of go down the list. I'm going to take the Titans to beat the Bengals. I'm going to take the Bills over the Chiefs. I'm going to take the Packers. I think the 49ers are hot, and Aaron Rodgers has never beaten the 49ers in the playoffs, but I don't foresee that game being particularly close or entertaining. Bucks Rams I think will be very good. Rams Twitter is bragging about how they beat the Bucks early in the year, and that means they're going to the Super Bowl. But I think the Bucks are going to win that one. It's tough to beat Brady at home in the playoffs. We saw what he did last year. He has his stuff figured out, so I'm going to take the Bucks there. I'm going to say probably Titans-Bengals is the game I'm looking forward to the most. I'm looking forward to seeing Derrick Henry come back because he's just so fun to watch. Said Joe Burrow and the Bengals can get really hot. I think if anyone gets blown out, I think the Titans get blown out just because I don't think the Titans are the type of team that are going to go out there and win 50-20. But I don't think they're going to get blown out. So I think it's going to be probably within a touchdown, maybe 10 points. I'm going to say the Titans are going to win because even after they lost Henry, they played great. Their running game was still awesome without Henry, which kind of shows that their scheme is good. They got a good line that creates some space, creates good lanes. So I don't really see how I can't take the Titans there. It seems like they'll win, and I'm definitely going to take them to ride it all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, I even disagree with you there. I have a little bit different outlook than you. I think the Bengals are going to beat the Titans. I think the Packers will beat the 49ers. And, God, I want to say the Bills, but I think the Chiefs are going to win. So I got Bengals, Packers, Chiefs, and then got the Rams Buccaneers ones. To me is a toss up. I don't want to bet against Tom Brady, especially at home, but I'm going to take the Rams. I think we're going to have a Rams Packers matchup in the NFC, and we're going to have a Bengals Chiefs in the AFC. In my opinion, that's what I think. The game I'm most excited for, honestly, is the Bills Chiefs. I think that could be a really good game. And I mean, we have these two quarterbacks who are probably you're looking at them. They are the future of the NFL for quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Both teams, the Chiefs' defense has come full swing towards the end of the season. Bills' defense is pretty tough too. I think that's going to be a good game. I don't know, and the Chiefs have just been rolling lately. They've been putting points on people, scoring constantly. Defense has been there. The Chiefs are very hot right now, and I don't see the Chiefs losing. And I could, like I said, right now, but I think if there's one team that's going to beat them in the AFC right now between the Bengals, Titans, and Bills, I think the Bills have the best chance. But that's the game I'm most excited for. That'd probably be honestly, I think these are all great matchups, like games to watch this weekend.
I think so too. Like I said, I mean, I'm not sure Packers 49ers is going to be particularly close. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers even won because they've been very hot. I said this last week. I said I wouldn't be surprised if they beat the Cowboys, and they did. But, I mean, the Packers are better than the Cowboys, no doubt. Really well coached. I would never bet against Aaron Rodgers, especially at Lambeau. We said, I mean, I wouldn't be that surprised if that turned into a 2-touchdown game. The rest of them, though, if they got to more than 2 touchdowns, I think I'd be pretty shocked.
Yeah, no, there's not any team out here that I think if they made Super Bowl, I'd be surprised. I think whoever comes out of the Bills Chiefs side, whoever wins that game, I think will end up going to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. In the NFC side, I think it'd be about anybody. I do think, like I said, the Bengals, it all just depends on, how the teams are playing at the time. And Derrick Henry comes back and he's just a monster like he always is. I mean, Titans are tough. They are, but I don't know. I'm actually, like last week's games, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't too awfully excited about them. Probably the Rams Cardinals was the one I was actually kind of really looking forward to. But this week, I just think all 4 games are just, and you're getting to the time now. That's what you're. Good teams playing each other. We're getting that point in the playoffs, but like, I just feel like this year we have really good teams, especially the NFC, all playing each other. Because you have some of those years where, like I said, the Browns last year. I mean, the Giants, some of those other years where they won the Super Bowl, but like, there wasn't really, the only upset was the 49ers last week. All the other teams that were supposed to win won.
Yeah, in terms of, I mean, I think those 2 versus 7 seeds could have been really interesting games, especially if the Saints made it instead of the Eagles, because we know what the Saints do to the Bucs since Tom Brady has gotten there.
Yeah.
That and if the Steelers would have squeaked in and we would have got Chargers Chiefs, because the Chargers I think are better.
Yeah,
I mean,
I do.
I don't know if you remember this, but about 5 weeks ago I picked the Chargers to get the 1 seed.
Yeah.
So I clearly think they're a good football team. So
I think that's another team, like I said about the Cardinals. I think they're just a couple years away from. They got a good young quarterback, and they got young players and surrounded around him and stuff like that. I think that's another team. They're a couple years. It's just kind of weird. We're getting to the point now where all the quarterbacks that we grew up with, like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Big Ben, like
Peyton
I
Manning.
mean, Manning's retired. Like we're into the age now that like I think we're finally fully transitioning into where. I mean, Aaron Rodgers could retire at any point. I mean, I could have swore Tom Brady could have retired 4 years ago, but here he is still playing.
I mean, Tom Brady could have retired 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, not very many quarterbacks are playing until 38 or 39.
Yeah, and here's Tom Brady.
And the ones that do aren't like, look at Big Ben. I mean, he's been terrible the last couple of years.
Yeah, he hasn't been all there that Big Ben has been, but I don't know. I just think we're finally getting into. We have these young quarterbacks coming in, and I feel we have this transition of people taking over the league. I mean, we've had Patrick Mahomes these past couple years, but I mean, I think for full swing right now. I'd be kind of cool to see a Chiefs Buccaneers matchup again, a rematch.
I think that'd be pretty interesting. I mean, about 6 or 7 weeks into the seasons, I'd have told you the Chiefs were terrible. But like I said, they figured it out. It appears that just playing two high safeties against Mahomes isn't all you have to do to beat them, because that was kind of what everyone was saying in weeks 5 and 6. It's like, well, you just have to play two high safeties and don't let Tyreek Hill go over top. You're just going to beat the Chiefs every time.
Well, I think the Chiefs kind of figured it out too. I think and Mahomes had a lot of turnovers. I think he was just trying to do too much. I think he was trying to, control the game himself and make all these wacky throws. And I feel like towards the end of the season, I haven't really watched many of the. I've probably watched one Chiefs game towards actually at the end of the season there, but like, just seems like he's not trying to put all the pressure on himself. He's trying to take the easier throws. He's not trying to make all these big time plays all the time. Like we've seen the past 2-3 years of Patrick Mahomes. That's all you see on ESPN, of Patrick Mahomes throwing a sidearm pass or not looking pass. And I just think he's finally starting to settle into a role of not doing that as much.
Yeah, I mean, I've told you this, but I mean, there are stats out there that show, passes that should have been picks that didn't get picked off, and passes that did get picked off that shouldn't have been picked off. And Mahomes, like, first 3 or 4 years, he was basically the luckiest quarterback in the league to where passes that should have been intercepted just weren't. And then this year, all those interceptions were actually getting picked off this year. So I mean, it's I saw someone tweet that that Mahomes is going to be a great study in interception variability, where much more goes into throwing interceptions than just how the quarterback is playing. Because sometimes you got guys like Mahomes who just make these wacky plays that just kind of work out. I mean, like I said, you saw the throws he was making in the Super Bowl last year. I mean, half of those, he was falling down, throwing crap over his head, whipping it sidearm while parallel to the ground. I mean, and I think he just kind of thinks that he can just do that stuff like all the time. And I think it's having an impact on everyone else. Like, did you see Kyler Murray's pick six?
I did not.
Oh, dude, I mean, you gotta find the highlights of that game and look it up. I'm just gonna explain it to you. So what happened was, Kyler Murray was getting sacked in the end zone, and instead of taking a safety, he literally just whipped the ball in the air. And a guy from the Rams caught it at like the 2-yard line. He caught it on the run and just walked into the end zone. It's the shortest pick six for sure in playoff history, maybe ever. Because he caught the ball at like the 1 or 2 yard line. Because Murray was falling down, and right before he fell down, he literally just whipped his arm and just sent the ball flying. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that sounds like something Patrick Mahomes would do. Well, that's the thing, like you said, he's been very, very, like, in the Super Bowl last year, like, those throws he's making, and, like, the one hit, I don't know if it was Kelsey or not, hit him right through the hands, his helmet, and drop. It's just like, everyone's like, oh my God, look at Patrick Mahomes, such amazing pass. But it's like, if any other quarterback made that throw, like, you have Big Ben or Tom Brady, granted, they'd never be scrambling that much, but I shouldn't even say that. Let me throw a Derek Carr out there doing that, or Matt Stafford, like, people be like, what in the hell is this guy doing? Like, that is a terrible thing. Just take the sack. But then when Patrick Mahomes does it, it's like, my God, this greatest thing since sliced bread. I love, like, think he never gives up on the play. Like, he's trying to make something out of nothing. It's like, but if another different quarterback does that, it'd be like, wow, that was such a terrible play by him. Why would you do that?
Yeah, which is, I've talked about this a million times, but people let the result of a play dictate whether it was a good decision or not. Like, those throws last year in the Super Bowl were god-awful decisions. It just happened to work.
Well, like I said, it's just like elementary boys basketball season this year when the one kid threw a shot up backwards and it went in.
It's like, it went in.
Everyone was cheering, and it was just like, that's awesome. And I was just like, I literally told the kid when he walked by me, I was like, you're lucky the shot went in, or else you'd be sitting next to me right now. I probably still should have benched him for that, but still. And everyone's just like, oh my gosh, such a great play. And it's like, no, it wasn't. It was very stupid. It just worked out.
Yeah, it's like, which is why I still stand behind. I mean, you remember that Damian Lillard shot he took over Paul George from like half court to win the series a couple years ago in the playoffs. Oh, yeah. I stand by that's a god-awful shot to this day. He just made it.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's not that,
like, you have 10 seconds, and the shot he decided he needed to take was a 35-footer with someone in his face. It's like, no, that's such a terrible shot, but he made it. He's cold-blooded. He drilled it. I mean, all the power to him, but like that doesn't mean that it was a good shot.
Yeah, and like you said, I that's the thing with a lot of Patrick Mahomes plays too, I feel like. And trust me, I'm not out here saying that every play Patrick Mahomes makes is just god-awful, because it's not. He makes a lot of good, smart decisions. I just feel like there's a lot of times that he tries to make something out of nothing, and it doesn't work as much in his favor.
Yeah, which is fine to do. I mean, like it's worked out for him so far. But I mean, some of those interceptions he threw at the beginning of this year looked a lot like Kyler Murray's pick six I was talking about, like where he's getting sacked and he just, without knowing where anyone was, just whipped the ball out, like assuming that it was just going to work out.
Yeah, it's some classic.
Like just throwing it over his head. You know, I mean, like it's not even like he was under pressure and he like took a shot downfield that got picked. I mean, like he's literally about to hit the ground and he was just flipping the ball with his wrist. Like he's shooting like a reverse layup and just hoping that someone catches it.
Yeah, that's some classic recess football right there. Just throw it up, you fall into the ground, throw it backwards, whatever, you know. That's what it just seems like. But yeah, like I said, it's just different to see some of these guys play like that, and I just think it's worked. I just feel like there was like that couple-year period where it just, for Mahomes, it worked all the time, and now I feel like it's just kind of coming back on him, and I feel like players are starting to realize, and it's still great when they make those plays and they make something out of nothing rather than just taking a sack or something. But like, I just feel like some of these players are starting to realize that, like, you know, I can't do that all the time. Like, it can't be try to make something out of nothing every single play. Like, sometimes I have to throw it away, or I just have to take a sack, or, you know. And I think that's Patrick Mahomes. But in my opinion, like I said, Kyler Murray kind of has the same deal there. But I don't know. I don't know. I got nothing else to say on that.
I mean, there's nothing, wrong with, like, I mean, I said it 2 seconds ago. I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with doing stuff like that over here and there. But like I said, I mean, it's happening all the time. And it's clearly, not working this year. I mean, they figured out towards the end, and I think it's because, I mean, I quit seeing clips of, these ludicrous plays that were turning into interceptions that he was trying to make. So, I mean, I think he's calmed down. I think he's, starting to not be quite as wild. I mean, I think they're starting to figure out the 2 safety look, because, I mean, that's all teams are doing when they started, like, 1-5. It wasn't that bad, but they started awfully. It's because teams were just sitting in 2 high safeties and just not letting Tyreek Hill get over top of their head, and they were doubling Kelsey, and it's like, gee, that's all we had to do the whole time, and they figured it out. I mean, Andy Reid's going to figure it out. I mean, you can't just do something basic like play 2 high safeties and expect that to work all year.
Yeah, no, for sure. They definitely have figured it out, but then they figured it out, and like I said, they're rolling right now. And like I said, the Chiefs are hot. I wouldn't be surprised seeing them in the Super Bowl. And like I said, I just think whoever wins that Bills-Chiefs game is going to will end up beating the Bengals or Titans and finding their way in the Super Bowl.
Hopefully the Bills.
I agree with you there. But, well, I think that about concludes it for today's episode, huh, Jacob?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a little shorter this week, but we're kind of lacking on news. College football is done. I'd like to start covering some college basketball if I'd actually turn it on in the evenings. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, well, and it's hard for me when I got school all day and I got girls basketball practice and all this stuff and games, especially next week. Next week we got 4 games and they're all away.
Ah, yikes.
Yeah, and it's like Warwick, Hatton. Oh, I don't even know. I can't remember the other 2 places, like Midway Minto or something. Oh, no, it's just ugly. 4 away games next week. It's going to be awful.
So it sounds like another one podcast week next week, huh?
Yeah, probably. I about assume so.
I'm sure we'll have
for much time.
I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about though next week. So.
Yeah. So, but well, thank you guys for listening. Tune in next week, and we'll catch you later.